So we are back with another episode of the Woman of Faith podcast. This week, I'm super excited. For this episode, it's a special episode because I have a longtime friend joining me. This is a woman who I grew up with back in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. Um, Someone who I always looked up to too, because she is, I think, a year or two older than me. But when you're young, those 2 years, they seem like a lot. And I remember I just used to see her in the neighborhood. I thought she was so pretty. She was always, trendy. And it's like, oh, I want to be like her. And then, fast forward all these years later, we're still connected. She lives in Florida now. And the reason why I invited her to be on the podcast is because she is in this new season of her life. She is in love. And I wanted her to talk about that love journey because so many women over 40 are struggling with finding their love. And so many women feel like it's never going to happen for them. But Denise is the proof that it can happen. So please join me in welcoming my good friend, Denise Quiles. Hi, Denise.
How are you?
So just introduce yourself a little bit. Let my listeners and viewers know a little bit about who you are, and just share whatever it is you feel inspired to share, and then we'll get into the conversation.
Okay. As you said, my name is Denise. I came from Brooklyn. I moved to Florida, and I came over here actually married for a better life, so to speak, for my kids. And after buying my house and um, kind of wanted the happily ever after. That really didn't happen. It really wasn't for my ex-husband here. So I kind of just focused on working and
So
found that person.
how was the transition coming from New York, right? You lived your whole life in New York, and then you moved to Florida. And I think because after a certain age, when you're married, when you have kids, you do start to think about a different kind of life that it's just impossible to really have in New York. The cost of living is super high. And, if you want to be a homeowner and like have a beautiful house, it's over $1 million easy, in New York. And you move to Florida, you get a different quality of life. So what was that transition like for you when you moved to Florida? Was it hard for you and your family to adjust, or did you kind of settle right in?
I think for me, I settled right in because I already had in my head that I was moving and that I was going to make it work.
Yeah.
Um, I got lucky because I moved to a neighborhood where my best friend lived. You know her.
Yes.
So all of her friends kind of became my friends. It was difficult for my son because he turned 13 here, and so he had like all his friends. So that was my son was probably for me the most. It was the most difficult for him because of his age,
Yeah.
and he's kind of shy, so like he didn't make a lot of friends in school. Now is a different story. And for my daughter, it was easy. Ex-husband, no, he did not like it at all. He was used to the fast-paced life. I knew that I wanted something more calm. I say calm is my superpower. Um, New York kind of had me always angry, and I needed a big change and started my self-care.
And so I guess how soon after you moved,
Down, down. Sorry, my dog.
that's okay. How soon after you moved to Florida did you and your husband separate?
So I've been here 9 years. We separated in 2019 and I moved 2000, what, 17? Am I doing the math correctly? 2000, no,
Okay.
Let's say 3-4 years.
Okay.
I suck in math.
Wow. So did he go back to New York?
He went to Michigan. That's
Ah,
his family, his sisters and brothers, they live in Michigan. So he went over there.
so how did you navigate that, right? Because speaking from my like just from my own perspective or my own experience, I've been with my husband, I don't know, 22 years. We've been married. And I know you and your ex were longer because that was like your childhood boyfriend, like forever. I knew you with him forever.
Yeah.
So when you're with someone for that long, you pretty much just settle into the idea, this is my partner, this is who I'm going to grow old with. And then you come to that crossroads where you realize you both want different things. And so when you both decided that you were going to separate, what was that, I guess, that process for you?
It was really hard. Because like you said, I thought I was going to be with this man forever. And I kind of started, that's when I started going to church. I always went to church. I was in the Catholic religion. Over here, I became like a non-denominational Christian. Um, my daughter was the one that kind of like was like, I think you would like this church. And so I went. And from there, I started my journey. Basically, I found God, and he gave me the strength um, to just kind of like focus on me. I'm the type of person that I put everybody before me. I mean, you're a Taurus. Hello.
No,
Uh,
we're birthday twins. Her and I share the same exact birthday, which I didn't realize probably until years later, because when we were growing up in Brooklyn, you were always like the cool part of the cool crowd and the older girls, and we didn't have much of a relationship other than we knew each other from the neighborhood.
Center.
Yeah,
Yeah.
center.
So yeah, I just kind of like started loving myself, and I heard God talk to me. I was petrified. I'm not even gonna. Sorry, my dog. Can I let her out?
Yeah, let her go down let her be right there next to you. She wants to be with mom.
Okay, okay.
That's all she wanted. She wants some attention.
I think she wants to go outside. Let me open the door. Is that okay?
Oh,
I'm sorry.
that's fine.
Come on. They have a treat.
She just probably wants your attention. It's like children, right? When
Yeah.
they see mom doing something, that's the minute they just want to be all on top of you. And so you found God. So, it's interesting. I feel like our journeys have mirrored each other, even though we're on different paths, but we both grew up in the church, like we grew up in the Catholic Church, and then I strayed from it, like after I left Brooklyn and we moved to Queens, like there was, I think that Epiphany made it really easy to go to church because it was so close to where we live. So it was easy. When I moved to Queens, I didn't have that same connection. Like there's something to be said about us when we grew up in Williamsburg. And, I love the upbringing that we had because it really was like a big, giant family, like a community. Like
I agree.
one way or another, everybody was related to each other. Like because we share a cousin, you and I.
Yeah.
We share a cousin.
That's so crazy. Yeah.
But so you found God, and what was that, I guess, that journey like for you? Did you find the closer you got to God, um,
More clarity.
the more clarity you got?
I have to say that going to church, like I said, gave me the strength. I would go to every Sunday. I would come home and kind of like sit on my patio and kind of like look around, and like I felt like God was talking to me and telling me that it was going to be okay. Like I knew for years that I wasn't happy,
Right.
Um, but you know, you get like 27 years, I think we were together, and you get used to that. I was very scared, but after like maybe a couple of months into going to church, I felt like this strength and positivity and everything I preach to everybody else about, be confident and do this and do that. I always gave advice, but I never like took my own advice. And I started taking my own advice, and I started just, I don't know how to explain it. It's just something that kind of came over me, and I just got this. Um, I realized I was basically alone. I had a husband, but I was alone. I I felt alone. So it was like while he was here, I was already alone. So why did I even? What was I scared of?
Right.
I know that I could do it on my own. But it was just having that companionship and wanting my kids to have their father there. And
Yeah,
but
because I think that we get attached, right, to this idea of what our lives are supposed to be like, right? I think that that's what, like, as little girls, that's what they sell to us, almost like you get married and you have a family and you make it work no matter what. Like, at least from my own experience, like that was what I saw with my own parents. Like, now I think they have a great, healthy relationship, but like back then, their relationship was so toxic, and we don't know any better. So we kind of, see the examples, and then we mirror our own marriages or relationships based
correct.
on what we see. And I think that our generation, we have the benefit of, I think, um, exposure now to so many different things. There's so much talk now around mental health and about self care for women and for us taking care of ourselves. And I don't think our mothers had that. Like,
Yeah,
they were raised to just endure. Like, you just deal with it. No matter what's going on in your relationship, you stay for your kids, for the family. And whether you're happy or not is irrelevant. And I think that we get to be the ones that break that cycle so that our own daughters, don't have to repeat the same things, and that they can feel empowered to be like, yo, if this is not working, you get to move on, that they don't have to stay in it for as long as we did.
correct. I agree with that 100%.
So
Definitely.
you separate from your husband, you're in church, you got the strength, you're starting to work on Denise and really starting to rediscover yourself again, right? Because I think who you grew up with your husband, right? And so you were never even allowed to really see who Denise would be on
Mm.
her own, separate from being in this relationship. Um, did you discover new things about yourself once you separated and you found that now you could only focus on yourself?
Yeah. I I kind of, like I said, I put my foot down, and it was just basically all about me. I became selfish, and I was okay with that, and I'm still okay with that. Um, just I used to go to work and kind of be like the happy person. Everybody would come to me and talk to me about everything, and like I said, I would give them all the advice, and so all of a sudden I became this pillar of strength. I don't know. Um,
Did you
confident.
think that you had that in you, to be so strong, to walk away from the life that you had known and that you thought you were going to have? Because I think that a lot of women also struggle with that, because they doubt themselves, they doubt their strength, they don't believe they can do it on their own. But we
I,
surprise ourselves, right?
absolutely, absolutely. I had a friend that I worked with, a gentleman, and he was going through similar situations. Um, I was not at all like attracted to him or anything. It was just we had a lot of similarities, but we're so different. And I used to cry, you know. People knew at work that there was something going on, and I tried to hide that. But he always seemed to like notice, and he would ask me, like, is everything okay? And I was saying, yeah, everything's fine. And then when everybody was gone, he would be like, I know it's not okay. Like, you know, I'm here for you if you need to speak. So one day I kind of just broke down and just started crying and started telling him stuff. And he used to tell me like you're beautiful, you're smart, um, you can have any man in this world, because I never believed that I was beautiful.
That's insane to me because I always thought you were so beautiful. You know,
Thank
even growing up, I always you were gorgeous to me.
you.
And it's so
I
interesting
didn't, you know,
to hear that.
yeah, because you know, growing up, I had like five older uncles, and you know they used to make fun of me being skinny.
Girl,
Um,
we were in the same boat. We were in
Hello, not many more. Look at here, look at here.
the same skinny boat.
So you know I like they made fun of me and all that, and I never had the confidence. And you know, in being Latina, voluptuous
Yes.
is the way to go. You know, that's the way.
I'm voluptuous now, girl. You grew into your
I did.
I'm still struggling. I'm not even I never grew into it. Even when
Girl,
I got
move to
pregnant.
Florida. There's hardly no walking. You know, you gotta
I got
ride a car
pregnant.
there.
The one thing I looked forward to, right, was like having boobs because you know I was gonna get the milk. Girl, that milk never came in. I never got the boobs. I was like, you know what? I've been gypped of this experience because with none of
Girl, take mine. Oh, I can't
none of them.
stand.
But
No,
I mean, I'm at a
I
point
feel
now
you.
I embrace it and it's like this was just, you know, it's just who I am. But I know what you mean. When we were growing up, like we wanted to have those thick bodies because that was what was appealing, you know.
Correct.
And as a Latina, like we hear our uncles or we hear our fathers and you know what they're looking at, and then I'm like, oh, you know, we look at ourselves and we're not there. So I get what you mean about not feeling.
And my ex-husband was pretty vocal about, you know, his thick Spanish women, you know. And so yeah, it was stuck in me. And so now I have this man that's telling me like, you know, you're beautiful and you're smart and you can, you know, you can do anything you put your mind to, on top of, you know, me getting myself together. And that kind of hearing it from other people, whether it was a man, a woman, I had women friends that were, you know, also cheering me on and stuff like that. And that support system definitely helped. So I definitely having a good support system to tell you, you know, how great you are.
Remind you of who you are, right? Because you've always been great. And
Yes.
you've always been great, but sometimes we forget or we lose sight of that because we're so accustomed to taking care of everybody else that we just are no longer focusing on who we are. And sometimes you need those people to remind you, you know, like, no, you still got it, and yeah, you're still beautiful, and even though your partner may not have appreciated you the way that you deserve, it doesn't take away from your worth or your value or those
And
things.
I didn't see it that way, you know. I always wanted his approval, his approval, his approval, his approval. Again, putting people before me. And so, you know, I here I am. Like I'm like I act like I'm conceited, you know, like fake it till you make it, you know.
Yeah.
And just again, I just started like I went on a date. Sorry, I was separated for about 3 years, and then I finally got divorced. And when I got divorced, I was like, okay, I'm going on a date. Like the UPS guy constantly was like, you don't have a ring on anymore. And like one of the like I work in real estate and also property management. So a man, one of the men from like property management, when he would come to like pay his rent, and he also noticed, oh, you don't have a ring on. And then I was so even though like I wasn't attracted to them or whatever, but it felt good hearing those things. And because, like you said, I was like, yeah, I still got it, you know. So I gave one of them, a date, and it was so strange.
It was strange. I can imagine.
It was so strange because it's like the questions and then some of the
getting to know people all over again, right? Getting to know somebody. I think that is always the hardest part.
yeah, and just think certain things he would say and do. I just was like, I don't like why am I here? Like,
and that's
kind of like try to get my feet wet, I guess, in this thing, in this dating life. I never went out on dating.
I mean, how important is that, right? Because I think too, a lot of women get stuck in this idea of maybe they haven't like a type that they normally
Yes.
and because they don't encounter these types, they don't go out at all. But I think what you're saying is that you were just out there, not necessarily looking for like your next love, but just to get out there, to help you one realize, yeah, I still got it, and these men are still checking for me. Like there was no expectation of anything. But how important is it for women to kind of just go out and step out of their comfort zone, just to get out there?
How important it is?
Yeah, do you think
it's very I to me I thought it was really important because it was sort of like I said, to get your feet wet, like to see how you feel. And I felt once again like appreciated. When you're hearing this person tell you like, oh, you look so again, you look so beautiful, and we spoke about our kids, and he's telling me I'm a good mother. And although you tell yourself you're a good mother, to hear it from other people, it feels really good. So confidence boost. And I think it's pretty important to go out and kind of feel out again. You like you said, you have types, and to me, I don't know. My boyfriend now is white. Never in my wildest dreams that I think I would be with an older white man.
let's talk about this new relationship, because I really like how, since he's not your normal type, right? You said you never would have imagined that you would be with an older white man. What was it that, I guess, about him that you say, you know what, I'm gonna give this guy a shot? Why did you take a chance on him?
Sorry, he was my friend. I worked with him for about 7 years, and he pretty much knew a lot because, like I said, I spoke to him about stuff. There was a group of people, and like there was a clique, I guess, in my company, and we all like got along, and so we all would talk, and everybody would give advice and stuff like that. And when he got divorced, because he was married as well, when he got divorced, and he actually confessed that he always thought that I was beautiful and smart, and said that he was out of my league.
Wow.
And no, excuse me, I was out of his league.
Yeah.
And that was humbling, I guess. I felt really humbled by that. And I think I got attracted to that.
Yeah.
Um, because he was actually he was my boss.
Oh, and the plot thickens. I love it.
So he was my boss.
But see, so then I think that adds another layer because I'm sure um that maybe initially you were a bit resistant to
Oh,
date him
absolutely.
because of that, right? And so what was it about him that allowed you to trust being in a giving him a chance? Because if it doesn't work, then what? Right?
Yeah, exactly. Um, I felt so comfortable with him. I felt safe with him. I trusted him, and again, he was a friend, and he was an amazing boss and an amazing friend, and he was an amazing boss to everyone.
Right. He was a good
Um,
guy. He
sorry,
basically he was a good man.
such a good man, such a good man. So I started to kind of see him differently, and that was I was petrified, like you said, petrified of what I was feeling. One, he just recently got divorced. I had already been like separated, and he actually was the one that kind of like pushed me to go on about 2 dates with
With other
people.
men, with other
Sorry.
guys, with other guys. He pushed you to go on
Yeah.
dates with
He's
other guys.
the one that was like, just see what, see how you feel. And so I did that. Um, and I realized when I was with those guys, I was thinking about him.
Wow.
And I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, I never, I know anybody, if anybody knows him, no, they will always say that, no, they will always say he's a great guy. Oh, he's such a good guy. And so I started to see him in a whole different way, especially when he told me that he was attracted to me, and that I make him nervous.
Oh my God.
Those are things that I felt with my ex.
Right.
And I kind of grew up with my mom always saying, like, find somebody that's gonna love you more than you love them, which I never agreed with. To be honest, I never agreed with that. I love loving. I love to love people.
Right.
I think I'm a great friend. I think I'm a great mother. I think I'm a great aunt. I'm like,
Well, of course you are because those are Taurus qualities. I know.
hello.
I know. I mean, and there's something to be said that you have had the same best friend for your whole like life.
Since we were 8.
And that's very rare, really. Like, because I can't even, I have great friends that I met later on in life, but like from the old neighborhood, I can't really say that I maintained like strong relationships the way you have with Chastity.
Yeah, I mean, we've been best friends forever. Like, so we've been friends for 40 years because I'm 48.
Yes, you have been. I mean, because I don't ever remember a time that you two were not together. Like,
No, and like I freaking moved over here.
Denise Chastity.
I live literally 7 minutes away from her.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But like, so it just says a lot about your character, who you are, the fact that you are so loyal, that you value the relationships that you have. And so now you find yourself in this relationship with a man who is probably the total opposite of what your type would have been. Um, how did that surprise you at all? And did it surprise like the people that know you best?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Did
Uh,
you did you care at all about what other people would think or say about the fact that he was so different from what you normally would have
I
dated in the
didn't.
past?
I didn't. Maybe the younger Denise would have.
Yeah.
I didn't. I know what I felt. I know what I was feeling. I still know what I feel. Yeah, I don't have, I didn't really care. I mean, I cared about when I told my kids, you know, um, that was hard because they knew him as my boss. Um,
Right.
that,
And
that was,
how did they accept it? How did they take you first, telling them? And maybe it had to grow on them after a while.
it's still growing on them, girl.
Because it's hard too, right? It's one, like getting used to the fact that your parents are no longer together.
They're actually, after 27 years, they got back together.
Wow.
After 27 years of being divorced, my parents got back together.
And
COVID,
well,
2020.
God bless them,
Yeah,
right?
understood.
But then with your own kids, for them, it's them getting used to the idea that their parents are no longer together.
Yeah.
And then now seeing their mom with someone new. So I think
And
that
older.
whatever it is they're going through is absolutely normal.
Yeah.
Especially because you said your daughter, she's in college, so she's still relatively young. And I think for boys, it's even harder because like they always just look at you as mom and they don't want to imagine their mom with like any other man. Um, but you have to find your happiness, right?
And that's exactly, I still, I mean, my kids always come first,
Right.
but my happiness, if I'm not happy, then they're not going to be happy because I will make them miserable, So my happiness definitely comes first. And then being, again, like over 40, I'm an empty nester. Like eventually they're going to move out. And then what? What am I going to do? And so I'm just like enjoying my life right now. Um,
Love it.
I recommend people that are scared to take the leap, like, and just, if you feel, come on, you feel, if it feels right,
Feels right.
then if it feels right, then I say you go for it.
And then I think too, letting go of whatever preconceived vision you have for your life, right? I think that we get so attached to the picture that we paint in our heads about maybe what our life is supposed to look like or what our partner is supposed to look like, that we don't allow ourselves to remain open for the partner that God has for us, right? Because it may not look like what we thought it's supposed to look like.
Mm-hmm. I thought I was going to be with some black man.
Yeah, there you go. And God said, "No, mama, I got a white man for you, okay? And he's gonna treat you good and he's gonna give you all the love that you deserve."
Southern gentleman. I didn't have I didn't have that. I was raised in Brooklyn where going out with a thug
That
is
was it.
is the shit, and I was like head over heels over my ex, because I liked him from when I was little.
Yeah.
Um, and that's a whole other story, but
Anyway, this podcast is not about the past love. This podcast, this episode
correct.
is about the new love.
Facts.
So how do you, like, now being a woman, in your 40s, your kids are pretty much grown, you've lived life, you know, how what would you say is different now about the way you approach your relationship now versus before when you were younger or in your past?
Totally different. Maturity, whereas before was just like you say things without thinking.
Yeah.
Now I think before I speak. Do I say stuff still without thinking? Yeah. But and if I'm wrong, I don't have a problem saying that I was wrong. Whereas before I had a problem, I had a chip on my shoulder and I wouldn't, So again, the maturity most definitely is a big deal.
And what does the pursuit of happiness look like for you now that you're older?
I wrote this down, girl. Can I look at my notes?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Did you pause me?
No.
Era.
Hi, this.
Mm, 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 mm.
Because I think that when we're younger, we chase different things, believing that it's gonna make us happy.
Yep. Absolutely. Like, when you're younger, you like think of that whole fairy tale or whatever that Disney princesses kind of show you. But I wrote this down. I said I've learned that the little simple things mean way more than anything else,
Mm,
especially the materialistic thing that we always used to be like, oh yeah, can I have a watch, and or can you buy me that dress? Where now I appreciate the opening of the door for me.
yeah.
I appreciate the hug for no reason. I appreciate the forehead kiss. I appreciate cooking for me. I appreciate just having an adult conversation, two people that understand each other and know how to communicate versus, you're wrong and I'm right. And
Yeah.
that's it, you know?
And then there's like, I think, a certain level of peace that exists when you're in the right relationship, when
Oh
you're
my God. I
a
never,
mature relationship, right?
yeah.
It,
It's like
it's
night and day.
the peace of mind that you have where you're not worrying about what your partner might be doing out there. Um, it's having the peace in your home or when you're together that, like, I think you mentioned earlier, he makes you feel like you're safe.
Yeah.
And
That's a big
I
deal.
think that when we're younger, we're not thinking about those things at all because we're looking at the looks. We're looking maybe at how much money they make or the kind of car that they drive, like all of these things that really are meaningless because at the end of the day, what we should be focusing on is like, how well does he love me? Do I feel safe with
Mm,
him? Can I count on him? Like those, that's the stuff that really matters. And at least for me, now that I'm older, those are the things that I value. Like you with my husband, I appreciate the fact that, he's my partner at home, that, he doesn't depend on me to cook dinner. Like if he's home first, he cooks dinner.
exactly.
If I'm busy, he picks up the kids from school. He helps with the homework. He makes sure that they're bathed because I do a lot, and I can only do what I do because I have such a great partner. But we also had to work to get here because it wasn't always like this,
Of course. Yeah.
and I think we don't learn those lessons until we get older. And like I wish like for young people that they start to look at the real important things while they're young so that they don't waste their time with the wrong partner.
Yeah. And I think I truly believe that it's also like where you grow up as well.
Yeah.
Because I mean, coming from New York and and being a Latina and type of music you listen to, all that when you're younger,
Influences.
it influences you definitely. Whereas like now, like my son, he has the habit of like looking at weird stuff. Let's just say deaths.
Right.
And I'm like, don't look at that. Like, don't look at the negative stuff. Like, I try not to watch TV. I
Yeah.
mean, news, that is, because there's so much negativity. And so, again, it's all about maturity. And, in your 20s, you don't really feel like all that really matters.
And it does though. And I think I love that you said that because you're very protective of what you're allowing to take hold or influence in your mind. because whether we realize it or not, the things that we look at, the music we listen to, the shows that we watch, even if it's on a subconscious level,
Correct.
we're internalizing.
That's what I try to tell my son.
And so it's like protecting your mind from
Yes.
the bad influences around us because they're everywhere. And you're right, when you grow
Learned
up,
that. I learned that at an older age. Definitely learned that at an older age. And like my son's girlfriend, for instance, like she's 20, he's 22. She got her own place. She worked 2 jobs. Like, oh, and in New York or whatever, and I'm not saying only New York, I'm just saying from what, how we were raised. It's like, I was with my mother till I was 27. And you
yeah,
know,
yes, I lived with my parents until I got married, and that was
I
it.
know the
I left the
reason
house.
I moved out was because I got pregnant. Hello. Same thing with my brother. I think he was around the same age, 27. He left because, you know,
Yeah.
but that's crazy. Now it's like, the kids now, or from here, I don't know New York that much, but from here, they just want out. Like my daughter, when she's 18. She had said it from like 16. When I'm 18, I'm out of here. I mean, she's still here, but I know she's leaving soon.
Yeah. But yeah,
But
but I think that that's what we want for our kids too, though. We want them to be independent and to go out there and live life and have experience, but then also be smart though about like the choices that you're making.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
let me ask you this. What do you wish you had known about love and happiness in your younger years that you know now?
I wish I always had put myself first. I wish that I always made myself happy, because I feel like since I put everybody before me and put myself last, that is probably what affected a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, because I was always trying to please, 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 and I was just digging myself into a hole. I mean, and they always say happy wife, happy life, and you know what, or happy mom, happy kids, or whatever. And I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy. And so I wish I would have known that prior in my younger years.
Hmm, I love that because I think that you figured it out still early enough that you have a lot of life left to
Yeah,
live and to enjoy, right? And that you're healthy enough to live it. I think that unfortunately for some people, they either never realize it or by the time they realize it, it's like it's too late. And then like their whole lives have passed them by and it's like, oh, I wish I would have.
yeah,
But it's so important to do that self work now, to prioritize yourself. And I think, especially in Latino culture, it's a very foreign concept to put yourself first because we're
sure.
taught to be self sacrificing and we're supposed to take care of everybody else, even if it's at our own expense. And
Yeah.
that's so dangerous.
And what's crazy is that I've always been very maternal
Mm.
in work, in with friends. Like I'm the mother of the group always. Um, I forgot where I was going with this.
But we were talking about self-sacrificing and like and being in our culture that we do it at our own
yes, that
expense.
was what it was. So, like, I have an aunt that is here. She's older. She's 87 years old. And, like, if we have like a family function, she's like, "Oh, go get his food." And, "Oh, make sure he has this." So when you said that, I thought about that. And so I do those things. And he looks at me like I'm like crazy. He's not used to a woman catering to a man, and I'm not used to a man catering to a woman. So
And I think that that's the cultural difference, right? Because I think culturally, white men are raised knowing like you're supposed to take care of your
correct.
woman.
Yep. Yep.
And
Yep. Yep.
in our culture, right, the men are taught that they're supposed to be catered to,
Yep.
and that's what we do.
Yeah. So that was a little hard in the beginning, but I like, he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, what are you doing? So, but now both of us, we learn to appreciate and it just flows.
Yeah.
There's no, everything is just real smooth now because again, I know what I want. He knows what he wants. I mean, I'm vocal. I've always been vocal. But when you have a partner that's accepting, it's just amazing. That he hears me.
Well, that's important.
Absolutely, he hears me.
And I think that right there, Denise, is probably like the key ingredient to a successful relationship,
Yep.
right? Being able to have that communication and that you both hear each other.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, and I think you said it, it's part of your own growth, right? We when we're younger and we don't know any better, we just want to be right all the time. That we're so focused on being right and getting our point across that we're not even listening to what our partner is saying. And we just automatically turn it off because we're focused on ourselves. And when you're older, it's about understanding, really listening to what your partner is saying, and
And
then deciding, well, what can I do to make sure that this person understands that I hear them and that you're being heard too.
yeah, and I'm my love language is words of affirmation,
Mm.
and I express that all the time. And so the fact that he listened to that and he's always giving me the words of affirmation on top of showing me, I'm like so blessed. So blessed by that.
So my last question for you is, what advice would you give someone who has either just turned 40 or is finding themselves in a transitional phase of their life? It could be someone who might be experiencing divorce like you did, or someone who has yet to find their love. What advice would you give them, or what words of encouragement or hope?
Don't give up. Don't go out looking. I didn't go out looking and searching. It just kind of came to me. Um, I guess I was lucky. But I think that if you just stay positive and keep those type of people around you that are supportive, um, go to church, find find your place, and it will come to you.
And I think, one of the things that really struck out to me for you was that, like you said, you weren't looking. You were really focused on taking care of yourself, right? So that Denise could become the best version of herself. And then in doing that, you attracted this love that you weren't even looking for.
Correct. Correct.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing your story with me. It was so nice to catch up with you. And thank you for agreeing to be on the minute I sent you that message. And I was like, hey, do you want to share your story?
I said yes right away, and then I was like, "Oh my God, what did I just do?" Because I get nervous so easily, But like then you made me feel better when you said like, how long we've been knowing each other. Like we're just two friends talking.
And right, and wasn't it easy? Like
It was. It
it
was.
was nothing out of the blue. And I also think like when you're comfortable with someone, the conversation just flows.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you were like a really good guest. And I hope that for those of you who are listening or if you're watching, that you get some inspiration from Denise's story. that you realize that it's never too late for you to find your love, and that when the love is for you, it will find you. You don't have to search for it. You don't have to compromise yourself, who you are, your values. The right person will come when the time is right.
Amen.